Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. So today we're taking a look at Ohio State's big championship win.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was. And we've got some really cool insights from this article.
Oh yeah, the one with the interesting title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skeetmore, some keens, mumpse. No idea what it means, but it definitely got my attention.
Me too.
Yeah.
And at first glance you might think, another Ohio State championship, what's the big deal?
Right. They're always up there.
Exactly. But this one's different.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Lay it on me. What makes this win so special?
Well, for starters, they didn't even win their conference.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, they came into the playoff as the 8th seed. Can you believe that? The 8th seed?
Wow. I mean, that's unheard of.
The article actually said they're only the 5th team in the AP poll era to win the national championship without winning their conference.
Really? Wow, that puts it in perspective.
And don't forget, they'd lost to Michigan, like, what was it, 4 times in a row?
Yeah, 4 straight losses to their biggest rival.
Talk about an underdog story, huh?
No kidding. So how did they pull it off? Everyone's saying it's all thanks to their offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly.
Oh, Chip Kelly. He's a mastermind.
What was so special about his play calling in the championship? Fill me in.
Okay, so picture this. Notre Dame's defense, they were only giving up an average of 14.3 points per game going into the championship.
14.3, that's insane.
Right, one of the toughest in the nation. So Kelly knew he couldn't just try to overpower them.
Had to be smarter than that, huh?
Exactly. He had to get creative, strategic.
And he did, didn't he? I mean, 4 touchdowns on their first 4 drives.
I know, right? It's never been done before in a championship game.
The article made sure to highlight that. It's definitely a record-breaking moment.
It totally set the tone for the rest of the game. But, it's interesting. Notre Dame also had a pretty amazing first drive.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more.
Their quarterback, Riley Leonard, he ran the ball 9 times on that opening drive.
9 times. That's got to be exhausting.
The article actually said he was so wiped out that he threw up on the sideline afterwards.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that first drive definitely took a lot out of him.
It makes you wonder if that affected his performance later in the game.
For sure. So we've got Ohio State's powerhouse offense and Notre Dame's grueling first drive. What else should we be paying attention to?
Well, this article brings up a really cool contrast with Notre Dame's last championship appearance.
Oh, you mean that game against Alabama?
Yep, 12 years ago.
Yep.
Back then, Notre Dame was all about strength, size, the classic powerhouse. But Alabama outmuscled them.
This time, though, it sounds like speed was the deciding factor.
You got it.
Huh.
Ohio State just had that extra gear, that quickness that Notre Dame couldn't keep up with.
Interesting. So maybe we're seeing a shift in the game. Speed over strength.
Maybe. It definitely makes you think.
Now we got to talk about Notre Dame's missed opportunities.
Oh, yeah, that field goal in the fourth quarter.
It's a tough one.
I mean, it could have been a one-score game if they'd gone for it on 4th down, but instead...
They kicked the field goal, turned it into a 2-score game, and then missed it anyway.
Talk about adding insult to injury, right?
And then there was that fumble recovery they got off of Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka, another missed opportunity.
I know, they just couldn't seem to capitalize on those key moments.
It's crazy how those little things can make all the difference in a close game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this article actually makes you wonder, what if Notre Dame had a couple of those super speedy players that Ohio State had?
What if? It's a good question.
It really is.
So it sounds like Ohio State's win wasn't just about raw talent. It was Chip Kelly's coaching, the team's ability to bounce back after a tough season, and, of course, their speed.
Exactly. A perfect storm of factors all coming together at just the right time. And this article, it goes even deeper. There's some really cool stuff in there about what this win means for the future of the game.
Okay, now I'm really excited to get into that. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we've talked about how Ohio State's win was this really interesting mix of things. But I keep thinking about this idea that speed might be becoming, like, the thing in football.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, what does this mean for the future of the game?
Right. I mean, could this change everything?
It might. Think about it. Coaching, recruiting, even how players train. It could all be impacted.
Yeah, you're right. Like, will we start seeing more, track stars suddenly deciding to play football?
Well, this win definitely highlights speed as a super important strategic advantage.
Yeah, I guess for a long time it was all about, size, right? Just building these massive, powerful players.
Right. But Ohio State showed everyone that speed That could be a game changer, especially against a team like Notre Dame, who are known for their strength.
So it's not just about having fast players, though, right? It's about knowing how to use that speed, like, strategically.
Oh, absolutely. And Chip Kelly's play calling. That's a perfect example. He didn't just tell his players, run fast. He designed those plays to really maximize their speed.
To create opportunities, break through that Notre Dame defense.
Exactly. Outmaneuver the opponent.
So it's coaching, strategy, and understanding, like, how the game is changing.
You got it. And who knows, maybe this championship win, maybe this is what really gets coaches thinking differently, about how they develop players and approach the game.
And what about Notre Dame? I mean, they put up a good fight, right? They had some pretty impressive moments.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That opening drive, that showed just how strong and determined they are.
Yeah, 9 running plays for their quarterback. But I guess, like we said, it took a lot out of him.
Yeah, and then they had those missed opportunities later in the game, like the field goal and that fumble recovery.
I just couldn't convert those into points.
And in a championship game, those moments, they're crucial. Those little mistakes can have huge consequences, especially on a stage like that.
Yeah, totally. It makes you think, like, what if they had scored after that fumble recovery?
Exactly. It just shows how close it really was. That fine line between winning and losing at this level. Every decision, every play, it all matters.
And that's why I love doing these deep dives. We get to go beyond the score, really understand what happened and why.
Absolutely. And this time, the why, it's strategic coaching, it's resilience, and it's speed, all coming together at the perfect time.
It's like a masterclass in how to build a championship team. But, the article talks about this idea of shifting tides in the sport. So do you really think this one game, can it really change the whole landscape of college football?
Well, it's definitely something to pay attention to. I don't know if it'll change everything overnight, but it's definitely a data point, We'll see if it changes how teams approach coaching and recruiting, and if it shifts the balance of power.
Okay, interesting. So we've talked about the game itself, but I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. This article we're using, it has a really interesting title, Ye a Awine Eo. I mean, it's in Arabic, right? Have you figured out what it means yet?
I haven't found like a direct translation, but I did a little research. And based on the article, it seems like it's talking about those hidden stories. The stuff beneath the surface.
Oh, wow. I like that. Like the title itself is telling us to look deeper.
Exactly. And maybe that's a good way to think about this whole deep dive. We're not just looking at the obvious stuff about Ohio State's win. We're digging deeper, looking for those hidden factors that maybe nobody's talking about, but they really made a difference.
I love that. And that's what we're all about, right? Trying to offer a different perspective, a deeper understanding of the game.
Exactly. And that untranslated title, I think it adds something really cool. It reminds us that there's always more than one way to see things, even in something as straightforward as a football game.
Right, right. So, as we start wrapping up this deep dive into Ohio State's win, what are some of the key takeaways? What do you want our listeners to remember?
Well, first of all, that this win was about way more than just talent. It was strategic coaching. It was the team's resilience. And it was that evolving role of speed in football today.
And it makes us think about the future, right? Like, will this be a turning point? Will speed become the most important thing in football?
Who knows? It'll be interesting to see how things play out over the next few seasons. But for now, let's just appreciate this win for what it was. An amazing display of athleticism, strategy, and, all the excitement that comes with championship football.
I love that. So well said. But the conversation doesn't have to end here right now. What are your thoughts on all this? Do you think speed is becoming the dominant factor in football? Let's keep talking about it.
I want to hear from you. Share your insights. Challenge our assumptions. All of it.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.
With this whole conversation, it reminds me of this one time I was watching a game with a friend. He's like a total football nut.
Oh, yeah.
And he kept pointing out all these little things, like things I would have never even noticed.
Right.
And it just completely changed how I saw the game. It was like there was this whole other level of strategy and complexity that I was totally missing.
That's such a good analogy because that's kind of what we're doing here, right? Peeling back the layers and, really understanding the why behind everything that happened.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just about who won. It's about, like, why they won.
Yeah.
What actually happened on the field.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I think that untranslated title, it's so cool.
He's alone.
Yeah, it's like, it's reminding us that there's always more to the story,
Oh, for sure.
Like, look closer. There's more going on than you might realize. I love that. It makes me think about everything we talked about, like, Chip Kelly's play calling, Ohio State bouncing back from those tough losses.
Right.
And then the whole speed thing. It's easy to just focus on the big moments, but there's so much more going on beneath the surface.
Oh, absolutely. And those, like, subtler elements, those are the things that can really teach you something. They tell you about the team, the coaches, how the game itself is changing.
I totally agree.
And I think that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting for us and for everyone listening.
It's like we're all detectives trying to solve this mystery, right? The mystery of how Ohio State won the championship.
Right. And the answer, it's never just one thing. It's like all these different factors coming together.
Some of them you see right away. Some of them are hidden.
And that's what makes sports so fun, right? There's always something new to discover.
Okay, so as we wrap things up here, what's like the one big takeaway? What do you want people to remember from this deep dive?
That's a good question. I think it's, don't underestimate the power of those things you don't see right away.
Yeah.
The hidden stuff, the small moments, the things that might seem insignificant, those can be just as important as the big flashy plays.
Oh, yeah.
So keep your eyes open, stay curious, and you'll be surprised by what you find.
That is such a good point. And it applies to so much more than just sports. It's like a way of looking at the world. Be curious, keep learning, and never stop exploring.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And that's it for this deep dive. But as always, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What did you discover? Share your insights, challenge our ideas. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining us.